Welcome to the Flight Club Podcast, a woman's guide to leaning out. We give you a behind-the-scenes look at business launch and growth through the stories of successful female entrepreneurs. Here's your host, Felina Hansen, founder and CEO of Hera Hub.
Hello and welcome. I'm excited to talk about books today, one of my favorite topics, and the fun industry of publishing. For a lot of us business owners, this idea of getting a book to market is an important part of our marketing process and being a thought leader in our industry. So I'm excited to talk today with Cheli Grace. She is the founder of the Book to Millions program, and she's the co-owner of Delian Origin Publishers. Her book, which is Book to Million, and her program attracts business owners and industry experts who want to have a process, and that's what it takes. As someone who published a book, I know it is quite a process where they are coached while they're writing assistants and they're getting published, making that whole process an easy flow, obviously making sure it's aligned with their business, and creating impact through the correct marketing and really scaling their brand and their business. She incorporates this all into a system, which is write, publish, and market. And I can say from experience, not only making my own book, but lots of folks in our community who are working on this process, the marketing piece of the puzzle is the big one that I think everybody works so darn hard to get their book out into the world that they forget the whole marketing piece. Cheli is a lifelong educator. She's a former teacher and a school principal. Welcome to the show today, Cheli.
Hi, Felina. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you. I am really excited to share what you're doing with our community because, as I just mentioned, lots of folks have this on their mind. In fact, I actually hosted a seaside writing retreat last weekend here in San Diego in Torrey Pines, La Jolla, California, with a bunch of authors. So this is weighing on my mind at the moment. So let's go back. Want to share with our listeners your story, of course.
Mm-hmm.
I know you were born in Cuba and were raised in Chicago. Now you're in sunny Miami, Florida. Let's talk about that just for a moment. How old were you when you came to the U.S.?
I was a baby. My parents left, and I was raised in Chicago.
Awesome. Beautiful city. We just opened a location there. I'm excited to spend more time in Chicago. What brought you from Chicago to Florida other than the weather?
The weather, my parents and I was raised there, and I love the Midwest. I love Chicago, but the weathers are brutal. Yeah. As those of you that live in Chicago or in those very cold and windy cities know. So we came down here, and I just love Miami, the weather. I love being in the outdoors. So that's the biggest reason why.
Yeah. Yes. You and many others as well, especially yes. Post-COVID. Awesome. Well, let's dive into some of the early education choices that you made.
I've always loved to learn. I've always been a seeker of knowledge and truth. And that is one of the biggest reasons why I decided to become a teacher. So during that path of career teaching, to be able to impact more people, I scaled up and became a school principal. And during that time, as you know, I decided to write a book to share my expertise with parents because there was a need for that critical piece. When I was in the school system, there was a law that came in that was about school choice options. And there was really a lot of information that was easy to understand, like a Q&A, what am I going to do with my child kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So I wrote a PDF book, and it went viral.
Awesome. Okay. So talk about the book, and then I want to backtrack a little bit here and talk a bit about your experience in the public school system there as a principal. But talk about the book first, please.
Sure. Well, I worked in the fourth largest school district in the nation, which is Miami-Dade County.
Mm.
And Miami, as many of you know, especially now after the pandemic, we get people from all over the world. It's a very eclectic city. It's full of rich, different cultures. So we always had a need to provide information because many times people come into the United States, such as when my parents came to this country and they emigrated, you don't know how to navigate the school system, especially, or other governmental agencies that you need to go to, like driver's license. So getting back to the school system, I was always a proponent of giving information. And working for the Miami-Dade school system was really great. It was one of my best career moves that I say was very rewarding. And I was able to do a lot. I opened up one of the first K-8 schools in the district. And then I was asked to open up one of the first preparatory academies on 2 campuses. And for those of you that know Miami, I was a principal in Coral Gables. So it was a really nice area. And at the same time, it was very challenging to navigate because I was a principal of a historical school that had been there since 1923. So I love stories, I love history. And to me, writing is so important to keep that knowledge alive.
Absolutely. So let's get into the book. It's not just one book, it's a series of 6 books.
Right.
So talk
It's
about these books.
it's a series of 6 books. So as I was telling the audience, as I was doing my principal thing every day, I realized that there was a need for information. My parents kept asking me, so I took it upon myself, not really thinking, and this is really important to know, because all of us have expertise and we have knowledge to give others. So not even thinking how it was going to totally change my life. So I wrote this book, I gave information, and I sent it out. I put it out in the world. I set up a little website at the time, and people started coming to me and asking me for more information. So I opened up a side coaching practice. I started speaking more about the topic of school choice. I was still a principal. And then I realized that there was really a big need. And for those of you that are thinking about writing books and you're in industries that you have a lot of knowledge, think about that and think about the connection that you can do and how you can help others. So as I started doing the research, I realized, wow, I really would like to do a series on navigating the school system, communicating within the school system. And I started doing that. I brought on a partner because it was a really big endeavor. And then I was able to take 2 years off. I went back, and then during those 2 years, I became an education expert on a national news because the books were launched. I first started self-publishing, and then I was able to get a contract through Wiley. So Wiley published me. I have 6 books through Wiley, which is called the School Talk Success Series. I became a professional speaker. And then I went back into the school system because I really felt a need and a calling to go back and, help my community and help Miami-Dade County. I was really very vested in my area. And I continued to speak, and I continued to deliver the message of the importance of education. And that's really a big deal for me because when my parents left as refugees and came into this country, one of the things that they took with them, they weren't able to take anything with them but their education. Both of my parents were college educated. They were able to come and transition. So all throughout my life, my parents always drilled in the importance of having an education and the importance of sharing knowledge with others. So fast forward to today, that is what I did. And then I transitioned out of education, and I'm doing what I'm doing today. But I'd like to kind of share that story because for those of you that are listening and are thinking, I'm in a corporate job and I'm thinking of doing something else, or you're going to be transitioning, or you're retiring, you have knowledge. And by writing your book and sharing your story, that can open up so many doors for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to go back to something you mentioned because this is important. And Cheli, I get this question all of the time from my community. So the idea of self-publishing versus finding a traditional publisher, I want to anchor in on the fact that you started off self-publishing, you self-published initially,
Right.
and then you got picked up Do you advise that for other folks as well?
Well, I would always like to share that piece of my story too, because I had a need to write. And some of us have a burning desire inside of us to get our story out. And it can be hard to get picked up by a publisher. And now, at the time that I wrote my book, it was a very different world than the world that we have today. So my first trajectory was to write my book. Then what I did was I went and I was able to get an agent to help me. We did a book proposal, and the agent was going to help me get into one of the publishing houses. But that didn't work out because the agent took too long. Things just didn't, it wasn't aligned. And to me, if it's not aligned, that means that it's not a good thing. So after 6 months, I then decided to take back the reins of my book. I self-published the first 4. And then what I did was I was speaking a lot. I was going on stages and I was building my platform, which is really important. Then I decided to go out and actively solicit myself. At the time, there were expos called Book Expo America in New York. I was going there a lot and making connections and making relationships and one of the editors at Wiley noticed the platform that I had and the books that I had, and they gave me a contract. So the contract was for the first 4 books that I had, and then I negotiated 2 more for a total of 6. So that's the way that I did it. Now, in today's world, we're living in a very different world. I'm talking when I got my book contract, it was in 2004, 2005. Today's world is very different. Everybody is self-publishing a book. There's still traditional publishing houses. But what I always say to my clients is, what's your why? Why is the reason that you're writing a book? Is it because you want to take your book? And most of the authors that I work with want to take a book and create a business from it. They want to do courses. They want to do retreats, VIP programs. So you might want to keep that book in a self-publishing mode because you have total rights to it. If you do want to go with a traditional house and they do offer you a contract, then my advice is to find a really great publishing attorney that will negotiate that contract with you so that you can retain as much of those rights as you can and be able to navigate those waters.
Absolutely. I echo that of everything that I've seen in the market, and I get asked constantly, how do I find a publisher? And I'm like, it's tough. I mean, the industry has changed so much, and I know quite a few authors who have been able to land a publisher and then expected that publisher to put a lot of marketing dollars throw at it. And either they didn't, or even worse, I had one member who they did put some marketing dollars, behind her book, and they hired a publicist. And she ended up having to do all the work on her own anyways. It didn't, it wasn't even effective.
Well, it's 3-pronged, right? Because first we have to sit down and write the book, and then we have to figure out how to publish it, and then we have to market it. And people don't realize that sometimes the marketing piece is a big heavy lift, more so than the writing. That's why when I transitioned out of the school system and I became an executive coach, people were coming to me that had written books and they weren't making money, and they knew my backstory that I had been very successful. So one of the reasons why I decided to launch my publishing house is because I don't own your rights or royalties. My clients own their own rights and royalties. I saw a lot of people coming to me that had gone with other publishers and things weren't working out for them. So I'm like the ultimate teacher, right? I teach you how to do it. I partner with you. I help you. But then ultimately, you own all of your IP. If in the future you want to go with a traditional house and they're giving you a nice advance, I was very fortunate. Wiley was very generous to me. So it just depends, again, on what that why is and what your goals are for your book.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I want to also ask a question, something you mentioned. You started to go out and speak on the book. Which,
yes.
That's a big key to the big piece of the puzzle here.
Right, right.
How did you initially approach that, Cheli?
Well, what I did is, again, being the teacher, I do a lot of research. So I joined National Speakers Association. And for those of you, NSA is a great way to get out there if you want to be a professional paid speaker. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that you have to qualify to join NSA, but NSA has an education arm where they're all over the United States, and you can join because they help you become that professional speaker. So that's the first thing that I did. I joined NSA and I got very involved, and because of what I was doing in the school system, I was able to qualify to get in. And then from there, I just started speaking. I was getting paid for my speaking. I was very connected to all the school districts because of the relationships that I had made. And in the world today, even more so, even though there's automations and there's AI and there's all these other internet tech tools that help us, there's nothing like good old-fashioned relationships. So I made sure that I had a lot of relationships. People knew what I was going to do, what I wanted to do, and a lot of people helped me get to where I wanted to go.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about those connections.
Yes, it is.
Those relationships are important, but I, again, want to underline something you said is you went out and you did the research, and that's so, it's putting together that spreadsheet, who's the target audience, how are you going to get in front of them, and just really making sure you've got some visibility into those, those folks that are making the decisions for whatever events or conferences it is.
Exactly. And you need mentors, right? When I started out, I was just a principal, but I had knowledge. So how did I go out and I started looking at where are the people that I want to be aligned with that are going to take me to that next level. And I realized that the event of the year was Book Expo America. So I started going to Book Expo. I started meeting people. I met a lot of people at the time that had just published books. One of those people that helped me and mentored me was Jack Canfield. And Mark Victor Hansen and all that community at the time. He had just been published with one of the big, I think it's ICF, which is here in Florida, the Chicken Soup for the Soul series. So again, you bring up a good point, Felina, is you have to do your research, you have to put that spreadsheet together, and you have to see who are those people that you need to align with that are going to take you where you want to go. Because we all need mentors, we all need coaches, and we all need those people that will motivate it and inspire us in the direction that we want to be. Yeah,
absolutely. One last question on this, and then we'll get into this awesome program that you've created. I have a young woman in my community who has published a children's book, and she's based there in Chicago, and she's been, interacting with some of the schools and doing some programs. It's about following your dreams and building confidence and, all the important things for children. Right. Any advice that you would give her? She wants to get into more schools and she wants to work her way into being a paid public speaker.
One of the best things to do is to reach out to the school's PTA or PTSA. Okay. Like find out who the president of the school is, of that organization, and start going out and doing talks. Sometimes schools don't have money, but guess what? She can do book signings, right? Yeah. So that's one of the easiest and best ways to, again, for those readers, listeners that are listening to the podcast today, it's all about doing that research. But the PTAs are great, and going school to school in the area.
Got it. There's no centralized decision making, I'm guessing.
Well, again, it depends how big her platform is, what is the why that she wants to do, because there is a National Association of Parents and Teachers, the National PTA organization, and they do have paid speaking engagements. But again, how are you going to get there, right? Like through relationships, through starting your platform. One of the best ways is start the grassroots efforts, go around the schools in her area and ask for the PTA to, let her speak and maybe do a book signing, and then they can give her testimonials. And then from there, she can build that platform, and it can take her further than, maybe she can have a meeting with a school board member. There's all different kinds of strategies that you can do to get to where you want to go.
Awesome. Thank you for that advice. I appreciate it. Okay, let's talk
Sure.
about your program, Book to Millions. What do you do with this,
The
and how
the
do you help folks?
the Book to Millions program. Well, one of the things that I realized when before I opened my publishing company was that a lot of people write books and they do it with the best of intentions, but they don't have a reason. Like they don't have that alignment with either their business or their why. So I created this 5 phase system where I help you get really clear on your why of the book. And basically, I help you start monetizing before you even start writing it. Because it's really important to look at a book as part of an income stream, as part of your business, as part of your brand. So during this phase, we get really clear, and then I help you, I partner with you, and I give you all the support that you need so we write it together. I don't ghostwrite it, but I do it with my proprietary system. Then we do professional self-publishing. Now, this is really important because, again, it's your brand out there in the world. And I want you to take a moment and look at people that self-publish and look at publishing houses that put out really good published books. So there has to be a way where your book, when you publish it, it's a beautiful piece of work, right? You open it up, you love to read it. So we do this for the author. We help them create a book that is a really good, not only with an eye-catchy title and cover, but then when the reader opens it up, they are engaged in reading it. Then what I help them also do during this whole process is put out a marketing plan. How are they going to make money for the book? How are they going to show up in the world to make an impact? We put you on national media, and then we help you basically create a whole platform. Many of my clients have businesses and they want to grow them. Some of my clients are in corporate, they're transitioning to being consultants, and they have their own proprietary information that they're writing about so that they can go out there and teach. And I do work very closely with our publishing attorney that copyrights all our books. Because if you do have something that's proprietary, I always have my authors make sure that they have a meeting with an attorney so that they can start their trademarks. Because it's important, if you put all this time and energy into a book and into a program, that you know that that is totally your IP and you protect it.
Absolutely. So much to to do in this process. I talked to so many folks that are like, oh, I'm like, great. Do you know what goes into actually making this a success in your industry? I think I read a statistic, you may know, Cheli. It was like 95% of people who started writing a book actually never get to the publishing phase. Does that sound about right?
No, absolutely. And let's talk about those reasons, because we all have good intentions. The biggest one is time, accountability. Also, a lot of people, it's hard to sit down and start looking at a blank page and writing, right, and getting inspired, or looking at a computer screen. You know, you have the ideas in your mind and you see other people out there, you know, publishing their book, but when it comes to you, sometimes it's hard to put that out. So that's why I created the 5 phase system, because I have accountability and, you know, every step of the way. So when my clients come to me, they come with their ideas, they come with their dreams, and then we have them go out and launch them with a book in their hand on national media to create an impact and have a business that they have an idea, because we brainstorm a lot as to how they can go out there and make money, because it's important. I've seen a lot of people spend a lot of money on their books, but then, you know, there they are, right?
Yeah, exactly. What's next? Cheli, how much should somebody be budgeting to interact and to go through your program?
Well, I individualize my programs. I have people that come in at different stages. So what I'd say is you need to look at, do the research, right? I give you a year-long program. It's executive coaching, book production, editing. Everything is, you know, top notch. So it just depends, anywhere from a couple thousand to, it just depends what you want to do. Okay. So if anybody's interested, you know, I'd love to get on a call with you and we can work it out as to what it is that your vision is for the book. I had a call today with someone that said that they had gotten reached out by one of these really high professional ghostwriting companies, and they wanted $65,000 to write their whole book. And they decided to come and work with us because we are nowhere at that price point. But I make it in a way where I want to help everybody that wants to write a book out there. And now my goal is to put together a course where people can follow my system and they can do it themselves with accountability and with all kinds of support as well. Because when you come into my program, my year-long program is a one-on-one. So I do very intensive work with my authors, but it's a one-on-one program where, I'm a teacher. I want to help. I want to get people out there to fulfill their dreams of writing their book.
Love it. Awesome. And your book is coming out. It's a program and a book, right?
That's correct. The Book to Millions method. It's going to be coming out this year, and I'm really excited.
Yeah, that's great. I love, you're walking the talk, right? You've got that hard copy that goes along with the program. That's fantastic.
Yes, absolutely. I like to walk the talk, which is important. It's important because it's important to know the pain that everybody goes through when they're writing or they're trying to market. It's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. What's one other thing? Obviously, the book coming out's a big deal. What's one other thing that you're most excited about for 2023?
I'm most excited about putting together a course so that it's going to be at a more affordable price point for people that cannot work one-on-one with me. And that way I can walk them through my system and then they can do it themselves, because I want everybody to think about the why and how you're going to make money from your book. That's really, really important to be very clear on that idea. But I'm excited about my book coming out. I'm excited about my course coming out. And I'm excited about being more visible and being able to talk more. Now that the world is opened, I'm getting booked on some stages as well. So I'm looking forward to that.
Awesome. I love it. Well, if folks want to get in touch with you, Cheli, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn under Cheli Grace, or you can go to the website called Book to Millions. That's TOMillions.com. And if on the contact page you put in Felina Podcast, I will send you a special gift from me to get you starting to think about your book.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for your time, Cheli. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. It's great to be here, Felina, and looking forward to helping through this podcast others to get ready to write their books.
Thank you for joining this week's episode of Flight Club, sponsored by Hera Hub. We look forward to sharing more success stories with you soon.